Hello and welcome to the channel. My name is Mel and I live on the Orkney Islands off the north coast of Scotland, where I do lots of crafty goody things like knitting and spinning and such like. And usually I have a podcast, but this is an extra video, one of those seasonal ones that I usually do every year. Today I'm going to be talking about my autumn knitting plans for 2023. One of the projects is kind of one that's already started. A couple of them are adapted patterns and one of them is one that I'm not sure I'll get to, but I would like to, hopefully this year. I will pop the photos of the patterns up on the screen and I will show the yarns that I intend to use for them. But I think we'll start with the project that I've actually already started and has been kind of hibernating for at least a year now. I'm not sure if it's maybe two, but I would like to get back to it. And that is my witching hour. It's supposed to be a swan show, but I have adapted it to be a sweater. I haven't done a lot of it. I've done part of the colourwork yoke, as you can see, and it is knitting up really nice, and I really want to get it finished so that I can actually wear it. The yarns that I used, or are using rather, are, well, one of my own hand-dyed yarns from when I was a yarn dyer, and one is an undyed base as well. So the main colour that I'm using is this wonderful midnight purple colour. This is a naturally dyed yarn. It is 100% non-superwash BFL and it is in the colourway my brain Spellbound. That was it. The colourway is Spellbound, and the dye that has been used for it is logwood, which is a natural dye. The contrast yarn I'm using is an undyed Shetland base and it is in an oatmeal colour, which, if the camera will focus on it and not my face, is a lovely kind of slightly beigey heathered base. It's lovely and I really like it. So those together are working up really nice, and the yarn, the fabric is really lightweight as well, which I'm really happy with. Apologies if I'm quite croaky today. I'm sounding quite hoarse even to my own ear, so apologise. So that is the witching hour, and the designer is, I have my notes because I don't remember names. The designer is where are we? Hannah Mann designed that. So next up is a adapted pattern. I would like to knit a stripy sweater with these yarns, which I bought last year at the Scottish Yarn Festival, formerly the Perth Yarn Festival. We have a lovely dark rich copper yarn and a lighter version as well, because they are from two different dye lots. There was only 2 skeins of this available, but there was a skein of this. I thought I can make that work. I can make this a stripy garment. Originally I thought about knitting a striped v-necked cardigan, a kind of a cropped one, because I only have 300 grams of yarn. But then I decided I wanted a sweater instead, a v-neck one that I could wear with collared dresses. Again, reasonably cropped, because I do only have 300 grams, which for my size isn't a huge amount, but I can make it work. And I decided upon an adapted version of the Nordiska sweater by Caitlin Hunter. It has cabling down the raglans and it has colourwork at the bottom, but I'm not doing either. I'm just using the stitch count and the basic build-up of the sweater to make this, and adding in my own stripes. So I will do, I think, 7 rows in the darker and 4 rows in the lighter, and that'll give me enough extra of the darker to do the cuffs and the collar and the waistband, whereas if I'd done 8 stripes and 4 stripes there wouldn't be enough extra for the ribbing. So 7 stripes, 4 stripes should give me just enough. So that's what I'm planning to do, and I hope to cast on fairly soon because this yarn is gorgeous. The base is a 70% baby alpaca, 20% silk, 10% cashmere, and that is Iolare Yarns and their logo, and it is super duper soft. Hello camera. It is really soft, and I think it'll be a gorgeous coppery, because I love burnt oranges and coppery colours, autumn colours all the way, all the time, and I hope to get that knit up quite soon. Next up is another adapted pattern. Apparently I can't leave a pattern alone. I can't leave it as it was originally intended. A while back, I don't think it was last summer, maybe the summer before that, I knit a Salem sweater by Dragon Hoard Designs, or Dragon Hoard, is it Dragon Hoard Designs or Dragon Hoard Yarns? She's a yarn dyer as well. I think it's Dragon Hoard Designs and the yarns is just the yarn. But I knit a Salem sweater and I really like it. I love the fit, although I did change the gauge to make it fit my yarn, but I do intend to use it as a base pattern for another sweater for myself. It has cabling down both sleeves, but I won't be doing the cabling because the yarn that I'm using is a variegated yarn. It is very variegated. This again is one of my old hand dyed yarns in the colourway Autumn Leaves, and it is a BFL nylon blend. Again, it is naturally dyed, but when I did a gauge swatch with this yarn for the cabling design, it just didn't look right. I'm pretty sure the gauge for this pattern is around a 22 stitch gauge, but you're supposed to hold a strand of mohair with a strand of fingering, and I'm just using fingering weight yarn, and it just looked strange. It just looked limp and small. It just didn't look right at all. And I'm a poet now apparently, so I'm just knitting the sweater without the cabling, using all the stitch count and so on. I'm also thinking of changing the collar. It has just a regular, I think it has a 1x1 twisted rib collar, but I'm going to do something else because I want this to be kind of a casual throw on over anything, hang around the house over sweatpants kind of sweater. So I'm thinking maybe a roll neck collar or a turtle collar. I'm not sure yet, but I have 400 grams of this, so I have plenty to go with, and I can make this oversized if I choose, and just cozy and comfy and kind of autumnal without being really bright. It's more of a lighter yarn, so it's not going to come up, you know, obviously autumnal the same way that something that's just orange would. So that's my plans for a Salem adapted sweater. Next up, I have plans to knit a pair of colourwork wristies. These are the Mushroom Kelly Muff wristies, I believe it's called, and I will be using a whole bunch of colours because it has lots of colours. It doesn't look like there's lots of colours in the pattern until you start looking properly, but I intend to use these colours, and these are all Drops Flora. The red is not quite as red as it's showing on camera, although that could be my screen. Sometimes when I come to edit I find the colours do look true, but it is a kind of a softer dark red, and the white is a creamy warm white. Drops Flora is really nice and soft. It is a fingering weight yarn in a 65% wool, 35% alpaca, so they're nice and soft and cozy. I have started a pair of colourwork wristies, a summer pair in the same base, and they feel very nice and soft. I think that, yeah, I'm sure they're the same base. So that's those. The pattern is actually from a book rather than from on Ravelry, and it is from this book, Fair Isle Style, put together by Mary Jane Mucklestone, and the design, if I can find it, is by Spilly Jane, and you can see them just there. They're very, very pretty with these little mushrooms on them. I'm planning on the mushroom stalks potentially being the creamy white. I might change my mind when I come to start the colour work, but that is the current plan. So we have quite a selection of items to be going on with so far. Next up, I want to combine two garment patterns into one. I want to make a oversized, slouchy, bulky cardigan. I made one a while back. I made a charcoal oversized cardigan using the Bly pattern by Amy Christophers, and this time I want to reuse that pattern because it worked up so well and so easily. It's a little bit complicated in places, but it's mostly to do with making sure you're on the right row during the raglan increases. But I want to add some texture in this time. So I want to combine a second pattern into this to create texture. I fell in love with the Campside Waffle Cardigan by Alexandra Travel the first time I saw it, which I think was on Pinterest actually, and I loved the texture of it. And I did look at the pattern and I thought about just using her pattern, and when I read it I realised it was all pieced and bottom up pieced, all this sort of stuff, and I'm a top down all in one girl. And when I made my Bly cardigan, that one is knit top down raglan style. I think the Campside Waffle is drop sleeve rather than raglan, and I wanted this raglan shape, so I've combined the two patterns and I'm knitting it top down, or I will be knitting it top down, and I'm going to do what I did with the original Bly pattern, which is I will knit the button band at the same time as the rest of the cardigan. It doesn't have buttons, but instead of knitting a button band on afterwards, it is just a garter ribbed band all the way down, so knitting on both sides of the fabric as you turn. And the yarn I intend to use is the same base as I used last time, which is Drops Alaska. This time I'll be doing colourway 55, if it will focus. There we go, number 55, and it is this kind of like a beigey light brown. And yeah, I'm really looking forward to having another bulky throw-on oversized cardigan. I wear my original Bly quite a lot. It's very useful for throwing on in the house when you just need that extra layer in the morning. I've even used it as a second sweater layer when it's been really cold, because it's so big and oversized. So if I have a sweater, say this on, and it's really, really cold, I can throw the Bly cardigan even over the top of something like this, which is my Arboreal by Jennifer Steingass, in case anybody was wondering. So that is the combination waffle Bly cardigan. Next up, I have a shawl pattern I would like to make. I don't make a lot of shawls because I don't wear them very often. I don't go many places to wear a shawl, but I do like knitting shawls. So last year, again at the Scottish Yarn Festival, I bought 3 skeins from the Border Mill in this charcoaly colour, one of which is darker than the others because it is a different colourway or yarn batch, dye batch rather. So I have 2 and 1, and this is beautiful yarn. It is a 50% alpaca, 50% rose fibre base, and it is very drapey, floppity. It is very soft, and it has a beautiful shine to it, which I'm not sure will pick up on camera, but it has this beautiful shine. It's just kind of showing up as flecks, but it is shiny. I wonder if it will show up in the darker one a bit better, if it will focus. Will it focus? There we go. It's kind of got this shine to it. It's lovely. The pattern that I plan to use unfortunately is unavailable now, but I bought this pattern a few years ago. It is by Nordic Stitches, or was not what was Nordic Stitches, and it is the Phobia shawl, which is a triangular shawl. Now I'm putting up a photo. It isn't the original photos. These are photos of a project by one of my viewers actually. So if you're watching, I hope you don't mind me showing a picture of your shawl. Lily of Nordic Stitches no longer has the original photos up of the design because she's no longer using the name Nordic Stitches, but she is rebranding and re-releasing her patterns slowly under the name Lily Skog Designs. I believe that's right. Yep, Lily Skog Designs. She hasn't yet released the Phobia shawl, but I imagine she will at some point. And it's just a really nice triangle shawl with bands of stockinette and then some lace work to it. There is more of one yarn used than the other, so I'm hoping I will have enough between the 150 grams that I have here. Also, I was thinking of, because it is very much a triangle shawl, that doesn't give you a lot of width, so I might make it more of an elongated triangle and add extra increases at the outer, or make it more of a crescent shape by adding extra increases at the ends rather than just in the center where a triangle shawl normally increases. But we shall see. I will play around with it when I first start knitting it up and see how that goes. Otherwise, if I run out of yarn, I'm not sure, because when I checked the Border Mill website, I couldn't see this yarn base on the website. That could be because they are run out, or because they've been at the Scottish Yarn Festival. I'm not sure, so I shall have to check. I'm hoping I have enough because I am on a bit of a yarn diet this year, and I'd rather not have to. I mean, there are like exceptions I'm making for myself, like if there was a situation like this, but we shall see. Hopefully, fingers crossed, there will be enough yarn to make the Phobia shawl. Okay, last, this is a, I hope to get through it, but it will be a lot of work kind of project, although maybe not. I think it looks more work than it actually is. There is a sweater called the Let's Boogie sweater. It is very much a Halloween sweater. It has ghosts on it and American candy corn on it and things like that. And I think it's, I don't know whether I'm falling in love with the pattern or with the colours. So maybe I could make something similar but without ghosts and candy corn. Maybe it could have, I don't know, pumpkins on, I don't know. But I love the colours and I hope to one day knit the boogie sweater. And the yarns I would like to use is, again, some of my own yarn. It sounds like I'm trying to push my own yarns, but I'm not, because I don't sell them anymore. It's just I have a lot in my own stash. But the colours I would like to use are mostly, well, I don't know if I can hold all three. Yes, I can. Is these colours here. Two of which are hand dyed and one of which is hand spun. I have this one, which I think is rock salt. This one, which is pumpkin picking, which has all these little orange and green and gold flecks in it. These are both on a BFL nylon base. Oh, this one definitely is. This one might be merino nylon. They feel like BFL nylon. I don't have the labels. So there's those. So that for the body of the sweater, and this for in the background of the colour work. And I also have this skein in, I think the colourway is candy corn. Yep, candy corn. And this is, the fibre is hand dyed with natural dyes, and the yarn has been hand spun. And I have 220 yards of this hand spun yarn, and it's 100% merino, this one. Now this I spun as a self-striping yarn. So if I untwist this, you might be able to see a little better. But it is a self-striping rather than a variegated yarn. You can't, as a spinner, you can kind of tell that it would be self-striping. So where you have the candy corn, for example, instead of knitting different colours for the bands, I can just knit hand spun. Well, that's the theory anyway. So I would like to knit this potentially, but I just don't know if I'm going to have enough time with having knitted garments in mind as well. And especially as this one is specifically a Halloween sweater, it would need to be knit up quite soon to be able to get any use out of it, because realistically I'd have to have this finished relatively soon, because I wouldn't wear a Halloween sweater in December. I'll be wearing a Christmas sweater in December, so I just don't know. I'd like to think I could, but if not, then at least it's there for next autumn. You may see this now next year's video, but hopefully it'll be done before then. So that is all the projects I have planned for this autumn so far. You never know, another one might get thrown in there. And I haven't even touched on potential for socks, because there are 3 sock patterns I've been meaning to knit for at least 2 years now, and I keep mentioning them and I keep not doing them. So we're going to pretend they don't exist for the moment. I love project planning. I love knitting projects planning. People talk about this thing about being a project knitter or a process knitter, where you are a knitter because you enjoy having the project at the end or enjoy the process of knitting. Now I knit to keep my hands busy whilst watching TV and things like that. I mostly enjoy having the project at the end that I can wear. But I would argue that there is a third type of knitter, and that is the project planning knitter, because I would say that I almost enjoy planning the projects more than the actual doing it itself. I love being able to look at a pattern and think, oh, what yarns could I use, and then go looking in my stash and finding what I've got and trying to use what I already have as much as possible, and think, well, that colour goes really well with this one, but if I was to say knit those 2 colours together, I get something else which would look good as a variegated or a headed yarn with something else. Things like that. That's what I really enjoy and love doing. Being able to think, oh, I have a certain amount of this yarn, and if I do this smaller project with it first, then I can use up every inch of the rest of the yarn on this other project. Those sorts of things. I love planning. I love project planning more than the doing. I would argue that's the same for most things. I enjoy the planning more than the doing quite a lot. Okay, I think I'm going to leave today's video there, but I hope to see you on the next podcast, and yeah, thank you for watching. Bye bye.